functionalities of, where everything is present in the UI, right? Other than that, the two main concepts we have learned is how the front end of the UI looks and how the back end is, where we can make all the changes inside the Salesforce setup. Now, today what we'll do is actually, obviously as an admin or a developer, when you're creating the interface, the first responsibility of admin is, a Salesforce admin is creating and managing the users, okay, inside the Salesforce. So what all users can see, who users can log in, right? Which users using which email they have to log in, maybe modify the users. So all those things are part of the Salesforce responsibilities that you guys have to handle. So today's class will be more focused on actual administrating work that a Salesforce admin has to do. What are the steps of that? Monitoring your Salesforce environment, right? Managing all the users inside Salesforce, and a few more advanced things we'll cover today, right, which are related to login. So all of you, let me know once my screen is visible.
Yes, it is visible.
Okay, good. Yeah. So my screen is visible to all of you guys, right? So since I said that the today's class topic will be obviously more of the admin part. Okay. So when you log into Salesforce, obviously you log into an app, right? It will either redirect you to the sales app, service app, whenever you log in, right? Whatever is your default app, it will log into that. Now, for all the admin tasks, we know we have to go to setup. So as we have learned, you just go to this wheel icon and you shift to setup. Now inside the setup, most of the options, most of the configuration are available here inside this quick find menu. Now you can go through all of these menus, or over time what happens is, once you know what all features are, you just directly type that feature and you go to that. For now, we are discussing users. So within here you see there is a main menu option inside the administration section, which is the users. If you expand this, you see multiple options are available here. Today we will be exploring how all of this works. So the first step anytime you are creating is, in any platform you have to create users, right? So for that, inside this quick find menu, inside the main menu of users, you find this sub menu option also called users. You just go to that. Now here you see all the current users inside my environment are visible here. That right now I have 5 users available here. Now what we have to do is, we have to test this for all of you guys, right? So what I'll do is, I just need 2 or 3 people to write down an email ID in the team chat which they have access to. I'll be creating a user with that email ID. So any 3 of you send me your email ID in the Teams chat. Okay, I've got 2. Let's wait for one more. Someone else also. Good. Fine. Now we have got 3 email ID. For Netravati we got Krishna and Mandar. Okay, fine. So Yakub's email ID we have, Krishna's we have, and Netravati we have. These 3 user IDs. Now we will be creating 3 different users. Okay. And how you can configure what access everyone has, we will walk through that. So obviously, whenever creating a new user, you see directly I have this option here. There is an option of add multiple users. We will check that later. For now, let's go. If you have a scenario where you have to create users one by one. Normally, you don't bulk create users, right? But so I click on new user. Now, whenever I'm creating a new user, any Salesforce form the inside the setup, inside the admin part, you see anything just represented by an input is non-mandatory. Anything that has this red marker is mandatory. Okay, that is just the basic. So let's do one thing. I'll first create Netravati's user. This alias automatically gets created. You can modify this, but normally people tend to keep it as the default one. Where you'll see this alias, we'll check that. Email ID, I need. Right. Email ID is what you will need if you want to maintain your access to a Salesforce user. So any user who forgets his password, who cannot, remember that, who, needs to reset his password. So all of these things, email ID is very, even not just that, within Salesforce, there are multiple actions you can do. You can send out an email, you can receive emails to, you can send mails to users, right? So how do you control that? Which email ID will that go to? Whatever email ID is linked with a specific user. Now, normally, username, what it does is it copies from the email. Okay. But in industry, normally what happens is project wise or team wise, people have some kind of naming convention which they apply to the username. So let's do one thing. I want to change the username to something that should be common across all of your team members. So let's have it this name @ training.com. Okay. Nickname I'll just copy from here. Alias and nickname I can keep same. All of these details, if you want to add, you can add for multiple users. When you are actually entering data for a company, then you'll have, the company name available. You said that department available. The more data you have, the more input you do, the more clear data you have that you can use later on. I'll show that later. Now, you see all these things are non-mandatory. No need to wonder about these things. On the right side, role, user license, profile. These are the most important three things you have to configure when setting a user. So we will go into their detail a bit later. Other than that, you see there are few, permissions that a user is active. Obviously, an active user can only log in. If this is deactivated, then a user cannot log in. Right. Now, based on what all functionalities user has inside Salesforce, you can enable or disable those. Okay. Now, right now you see, I cannot actually enable all of this. Okay. So there is a condition which is stopping me from making this user, say a Service Cloud user or a publisher user, offline user, knowledge user. So a lot of configuration can be done. Even while creating user, you can control what access you have to give, what access you don't want to give. Right. These are obviously some additional details that a person can access content within Salesforce. They can receive email alert for changes inside Salesforce, all those things.
So what is a user license?
Now, the mandatory fields which are required. First, time zone, locale, and language. This is what the user will see when they log in. You can change this. If you change this location, then the user, when they log in, they will see that text only. Okay. These are just the basic configuration we have done till now. Now comes the most important part when configuring a user is the user license. What license you want to give to a user. So I'll show you one thing. This you see are specific types of licenses that Salesforce provides. Okay, I'll open another window.
So what can use of user license?
Sorry, can you speak a bit louder?
So what is the use of user license?
Yeah, I'm explaining that. I'm about to explain that.
Okay.
Right. Now I'll share a link to you where you can see a bit of the details inside this. Where did that link go? Right. This is a bit of documentation. You can explore this more a bit later on your time, but I'll just show that window to you. Now you see here, what Salesforce has is a lot of different kinds of license, and based on that, you control the access on that person, right? So say the first license I have is, okay, hold on, let me do one thing. I'll add this tab here only, right? So the first user license I have here, right? Salesforce platform, right? So what is that Salesforce platform license? Designed for users who require full access to standard CRM and App Exchange apps. So these users will have access to modify anything. Those kind of control you want. For that, you have a different license. Okay. Then let's go to another license here. Right. Let's say a Salesforce integration. What does Salesforce integration license gives us? It gives you access to Salesforce data only through API. Means if I give this user the Salesforce integration license, then they cannot actually log into Salesforce. But what they can do is from another party, they have the same username and the password, they can send API callouts to Salesforce. They will send request, they will receive data, or they will send data, that data will be created into Salesforce. So that is just an integration license. Those people cannot actually log into Salesforce. So based on the use case you want, you have to define a license. Now you will say that, okay, so what we should do is, let's do one thing, give everyone the maximum license we have, and then we will control whatever we want to display or not display by using within Salesforce. Can be an idea that someone will decide to follow up, but that is where Salesforce comes up with an issue, that you have to remember Salesforce is a paid service. Okay. So if everything is paid inside Salesforce, that means the licenses also a company has to pay. So how many users you can create, which users have which licenses, all of those things inside Salesforce are paid. You have to remember that. Where do you see that information? Inside this setup, you go to company information, right? Company information. Here you will see the details within your organization. Now what do we see here? All the list of user licenses I right now have, which is the default. This is a free environment we have created for our training purposes, right? Which is why the number of licenses we have is very less. Like Salesforce licenses, I have 2 total and I have used both of those. Okay. External apps, I have 20. I have not used any. All the others I have not used any because I have not created any other user. So here you see, you can see, hold on, what did I click here? Right here, yes. So you have a list of all the licenses you can see, and how many you have used you can track. If you hit the limit, the remaining licenses are 0. Now if I want to create another Salesforce administrator, what will happen? I don't have that license. I'll have to reach out to Salesforce and say, I want to create more admin users. I need licenses. They will tell me, okay, monthly you have to give this much payment for the number of licenses you have. So like 100 more licenses, this much dollars. 1,000 more licenses, this much dollar. So because this becomes a paid thing, as an admin, your complexity of the task gets increases. So I have to make sure I only give the Salesforce platform license to users who need this. If they don't need this, then I won't give them this license. Now for now, in my case, I have reached the limit. Both Salesforce user licenses are done. So what do I do now? I need to free up licenses. So for that, what we'll do is, we see which other user has this same license. Now I have only 5 users. This is the user I had created. And this has a user license of Salesforce. Right. What if I change the license of this user? Let me change it to integration. This got saved. Let's refresh company information. And I now have a free Salesforce license. So now I can create another admin. Okay, I have a question. We have a question in the chat. What will be the UI then for Salesforce integration if they cannot log in for sending API? So for them, they won't have any UI. What they will have is probably sending and receiving requests and responses using API. I'll show you one thing just for now before we move to more details.